devices should be switched off or put on silent mode to ensure the smooth running of the program. Selamat sejahtera and a very good morning. Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, please come into the hall and be seated, as we will start the program shortly. Your telecommunication devices should be switched off or put on silent mode to ensure the smooth running of the program. Announcing the arrival of our guest of honor, Yang Berbahagia, Professor Dato Seri Insinyur Dr. Zaini Ujang, accompanied by Dato Professor Emeritus Dr. Osman Bakar, Professor Dato Dr. Abdul Aziz Bangun, along with our distinguished Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. And now, I would like to invite Al-Fadil Ustad Osman Nordin, Islamic Religious Officer at IIUM, for the Quranic recitation. Please welcome.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذا أذقنا الناس رحمة من بعد ضراء مستهم إذا لهم مكر في آياتنا قل الله أسرع مكرا إن رسلنا يكتبون ما تمكرون هو الذي يسيركم في البر والبحر حتى إذا كنتم في الفلك وجرين بهم بريح طيبة وفرحوا بها جاءتها ريح عاصف وجاءهم الموج من كل مكان وظنوا أنهم أحيط بهم دعوا الله مخلصين له الدين لئن أنجيتنا من هذه لنكونن من الشاكرين فلما أنجاهم إذا هم يبغون في الأرض بغير الحق يا أيها الناس إنما بغيكم على أنفسكم متاع الحياة الدنيا ثم إلينا مرجعكم فننبئكم بما كنتم تعملون إنما مثل الحياة الدنيا كماء إن أنزلناه من السماء فاختلط به نبات الأرض مما يأكل الناس والأنعام حتى إذا أخذت الأرض زخرفها وزينت وظن أهلها أنهم قادرون عليها أتاها أمرنا ليلا أو نهارا فجعلناها حصيدا كأن لم تغن بالأمس كذلك نفصل الآيات لقوم يتفكرون والله يدعو إلى دار السلام والله يدعو
respected University Management Community members, Honorable Dato Professor Dr. Abdul Aziz Bawood, Dean of International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, ISTAC IIUM, Professor Dr. Haslinda Abdullah, Director of Institute for Social Science Study IPSAS, University Putra Malaysia, officials and representatives of public higher education institutes, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sejahtera and a very good morning. A very warm welcome to the 6th Distinguished Lecture Series on Youth Wellbeing, co-organized by the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, ISTAC IIUM, and the Institute for Social Science Studies, IPSAS, University Putra Malaysia. To this lecture, Youth and Environmental Education, Nurturing a Value-Driven Mindset, will be presented by Yang Berbahagia, Professor Dato Seri Insinyur Dr. Zaini Ujang, Secretary General of the Ministry of Higher Education. We are also honored by the presence of our new rector, Professor Emeritus Dato Dr. Osman Baka, whose leadership continues to inspire intellectual and spiritual growth. In this ever-changing world, the role of youth in environmental stewardship grounded in Islamic values and holistic education is more critical than ever. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed with the speeches. It is my pleasure to invite Dato Professor Dr. Abdul Aziz Bawood, Dean of the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, to deliver his welcoming remarks. Please welcome him to the stage.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Yang Berbahagia Dato Sri Dr. Zaini Ujang, Secretary General, Ministry of Higher Education and Deputy Chairman of the IIUM Board of Governors. Yang Berbahagia Professor Emeritus Dr. Osman Baka, Rector of the International Islamic University Malaysia, respected University Management Committee members, Professor Dr. Haslinda Abdullah, Director of IPSAS UPM, ladies and gentlemen, once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I extend a warm welcome to all participants gathered today in this splendid hall of ISTAC IIUM for the 6th Distinguished Lecture Series on Youth Well-Being. This lecture and dialogue series, initiated 2 years ago by ISTAC IIUM and IPSAS UPM, represents a collaborative effort between the two institutions aimed at enhancing the discourse on youth well-being and offering solutions and guidance to young individuals confronting the complex challenges of post-normal times, including environmental concerns, ethics, and education. We are greatly privileged to host Yang Berbahagia Dato Sri Dr. Zaini Ujang, Secretary General of the Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia, who has kindly accepted our invitation to deliver the 6th Distinguished Lecture on Youth and Environmental Education, Nurturing a Value-Driven Mindset. For the information of our esteemed audience today, prior distinguished lectures were presented by notable figures and scholars, including His Highness, the Crown Prince of Selangor, the Minister of Youth and Sports, the Minister of Education, the former Rector of IIUM, and the former President of Academy of Science, Malaysia. We extend a sincere greeting and welcome to Dato Prof Dr. Osman Baka, the newly appointed rector of IIUM, who joins us today for his first official event at ISTAC after his appointment. Maybe we can give applause to our professor. A heartfelt welcome and gratitude to the Honorable Diplomatic Corps and also all the participants here. I wish to express my gratitude to Professor Dr. Haslinda, the director of IPSAS UPM and her team for their assistance and effort in ensuring the success of today's program. We are also greatly happy to welcome the participation of respected participants from SGM, public and private universities, NGOs, and youth organizations. This strategic collaboration between ISTAC and IPSAS commenced with visits, distinguished lecture series, and the Memorandum of Understanding, and today marks the initiation of a research project. Future plans include international conference, workshop and training sessions, and joint publications focused on enhancing youth well-being from a value-driven and civilizational perspective. Today's event offers the audience, besides listening to our respected professor and scholar, Dato Sri Zaini, the chance to explore some of his books displayed outside of this hall. You will also find the Sejatra Center of IIUM booth, showcasing the diverse works and experiential learning outputs of our youth and students addressing environmental issues and community challenges. You will find also outside the booth of Jungle School, Gomba, which offers engaging activities and addresses the environmental challenges from the perspective of indigenous wisdom and culture. Furthermore, you will find the exhibition of books from IPSAS and ISTAC. Esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, today's lecture addresses youth and environmental education, emphasizing the importance of values and mindset in addressing environmental concerns. In a time characterized by increasing environmental deterioration and climate emergency, cultivating ecological stewardship and responsibility among the youth has become vital to our survival. Value-based environmental education not only teaches essential knowledge about ecological systems, but also fosters a deep sense of responsibility for their preservation and regeneration. Incorporating values-driven ideas into university curricula and co-curricula is profoundly needed to enhance the sustainable practices. The primary message of this program today is that it is our individual and collective responsibility to preserve our nature, environment, and planet Earth. Action must be originated from within each and every individual, brothers and sisters. Finally, I would like to convey my gratitude to all who have facilitated the success of this program today, notably the teams from ISTAC and IPSAS. May God bless you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Abdul Aziz Bagud, for your insightful remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, now it is my pleasure to respectfully invite Honorable Rector of IIUM, Dato Professor Emeritus Dr. Osman Baka, to deliver his welcoming speech. Please welcome him to the stage.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning, salam sejahtera. Yang berbahagia Dato Sri Dr. Zaini Ujang, Secretary General, Ministry of Higher Education, and Deputy Chairman of the IIUM Board of Governors, Professor Dr. Hasinda Abdullah, Director of IPSAS UPM, respected University Management Committee members, Honorable Dr. Professor Dr. Abdul Aziz Bargur, Dean of ISTEC IUM, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, congratulations to the organizers, ISTEC and IPSAS. And it's nice to see you again. I've left, I miss ISTEC. Just a matter of 2 weeks, I felt a longing to come back. It is a great pleasure to welcome all of you to the 6th Distinguished Lecture Series on Youth Well-Being, co-organized by ISTEC and the Institute for Social Science Studies at UPM. Today, we are privileged to have with us Yang berbahagia Datuk Seri Dr. Zaini Ujang, long-time friend, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Higher Education, Malaysia, who will enlighten us with this lecture on youth and environmental education, nurturing a value-driven mindset. Dr. Zaini will speak to us from experience, long-time experience. He has taught environmental ethics. He has written about environmental ethics. He has won awards based on his work on mathematics. So, who else we can have for our program today? And of course, to speak about environmental education, he is now in charge of education. So, in the dialogue later, you can ask him a lot about youth and well-being. And this is university. Use the freedom to voice your views. All right? I hope the discussion will be a very lively one, inshallah. As Muslims, we are reminded of our sacred responsibility as Khalifa of the earth. But one caution from me. It's not enough to emphasize that the concept of Khalifatullah fil ard. There is another concept that must go with that. In other words, don't forget this partnership between Khalifatullah fil ardi and Abdullah. Based on what I've thought much about this, for us, in order to have an effective environmental education, the concept of humble Allah, Abdullah, must go together with the concept of Khalifatullah. Khalifatullah alone by itself cannot deliver the fruits that we are seeking for. So, environmental education for youth, for me, is almost a fardu ain. Take the side. It is certainly fardu kifaya. It is certainly fardu kifaya, but coming close to fardu ain. If we understand what fardu ain means, what is fardu ain? Means that if you do, you win, you gain. If you don't do, you lose. Think deeply about the situation of the environment at our present moment. So there are certain things that we must do. If you don't do, the environment will get worse and worse. So, the focus of today's program on youth and environmental education is both timely and necessary. Our youth are the future leaders and caretakers of our planet. Equipping them with value-driven mindsets ensures that their approach to environmental issues will be grounded in ethical, sustainable practices, reflecting the balance and harmony that Islam teaches. Ladies and gentlemen, in my work, Environmental Wisdom for Planet Earth, the Islamic Heritage, I delve deeply into the critical relationship between Islamic philosophy and the environment. I would like to see this relationship increasing, being nurtured. Inshallah, I will try to see that happening, inshallah. For me, the urgency of addressing environmental issues today stems not only from the degradation we see around us, but also from a broader spiritual disconnect that has occurred between humanity and nature. Islamic teachings, grounded in both the Quran and the Sunnah, highlight that nature is a sacred trust, amanah. It is a manifestation of divine wisdom that should be treated with reverence, respect, and care, values that are meant to be passed on to future generations. In this context, our interactions with nature are not just practical or resource-based, but deeply spiritual and intellectual. Nature, much like the Quran Tadwini, meaning the recorded Quran, offers lessons and wisdom. It's based, for me, personally, I'm taking here now, because I'm the eldest here, and when to myself, when I was a young boy in school, maybe Professor Murad here, yeah, we learned Kitab Kiliran Budi. In our times, not long ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, or 60 years ago, the important thing that was taught to us, that respect nature because nature is our teacher. The concept on nature as teacher will always be there. It is a perennial concept. Even though in this bad time for nature, we still learn from that. So I think in environmental education, take our school children more often to whatever is left of our natural environment. Go and visit the forest, the virgin jungles. You have to know why the Japanese have certain sense of respect for nature, because they consider themselves, Shintoism is regarded as the religion of the forest. Shintoism is called the religion of the forest. For us, with abundant forests before, we could learn many things from the world of nature. And Kitab Kiliran Budi recorded that. We learn environmental ethics from that book. Just now I was talking to some friend. I think we need to revisit Kitab Kiliran Budi as part of environmental education. Because we learn ethics from the behavior of plants, of animals, birds, and so on. Pandai-pandai tupai melompat, akhirnya jatuh ke tanah juga. Lesson, big lesson for those who think that they can get away with everything. I think there are many other things, okay? So the nature offers us lessons and wisdom. In what we call the Quran Takwini, the Quran of creation, this means that nature itself is sacred. It's sacred and carries its own law, and the way we engage with it is an extension of our relationship with the divine. One of the key issues I would like to address is the sacredness of science and the degrees of what we call scientism, a purely materialistic approach to understanding the world. Many of the environmental problems we face today, I believe, stem from a spiritual detachment from nature. Modern science, often driven by a reductionist perspective, tends to strip nature of its sacredness, reducing it to a mere resource to be exploited, treating it as material IT, treating it and not as living thing. This approach neglects the deeper spiritual and moral dimensions that should guide our interaction with the natural world. In contrast, the Islamic worldview and also other religious, other spiritual traditions, Buddhism, for example, offers a far more holistic framework, one that reflects the unity of God, humanity, and nature. The Tawhidic framework emphasizes that everything in creation is interconnected, and it fosters an ecological consciousness that balances intellectual understanding with spiritual reflection. By restoring this balance, we can address the root causes of environmental degradation, reconnecting with the sacredness of nature and recognizing our role as Khalifa of the earth. Ladies and gentlemen, in my view, ecological consciousness is not something that can be built solely on sentiment or emotional appeals, though these certainly have a role. Rather, it must be grounded in intellectual reflection, which is deeply embedded in the Islamic intellectual tradition. The Quran offers a rich source of wisdom that has unfortunately been underexplored in the context of contemporary environmental education. The Quran reminds us that we are Khalifa, vicegerents of the earth, and as such, we are entrusted with the well-being of the planet. This trust requires us to act with integrity, responsibility, and a clear understanding of the spiritual dimensions of nature. Throughout my research, I've argued that the key to addressing modern environmental crisis lies in rediscovering the traditional Islamic science that once shaped our understanding of the world. This traditional science, practiced by scholars such as Al-Farabi, Ibn Sina, and Al-Ghazali, was built on the principle that nature is not separate from humanity or God. Instead, it is a part of a hierarchical relationship that reflects the unity of all creation. This stands in contrast to modern secular science, which tends to view the natural world in isolation from the divine and spiritual realms. In fact, when we look back at Islamic history, we see that the scholars of the Islamic Golden Age viewed the natural world as an interconnected system that functioned in harmony with God's will. Their work was not driven by the desire for domination or exploration of the earth's resources, but by the belief that understanding nature brought one closer to understanding the divine. This is the kind of intellectual and spiritual integration that we need to recover if we are to find sustainable solutions to today's environmental challenges. Moreover, I believe that it is essential to engage in inter-civilizational dialogue on these issues, something that I address in my work. The environment crisis we face today are global in scope, and they require a conversation between different religious and cultural traditions. Islamic environmental ethics, with its emphasis on balance, mizan, responsibility, and sustainability, can contribute significantly to this dialogue, particularly when it comes to integrating spiritual and ethical considerations into our scientific and theological practices. My aim is to show that Islamic philosophy, with its Tawhidic principles and emphasis on the unity of creation, offers profound insights into how we can reshape our relationship with nature. It is my hope that by reconnecting with these principles, we can foster a new form of environmental stewardship, one that is not only sustainable, but also deeply spiritual and aligned with the divine order of creation. The understanding of nature's sacredness is something that we must recover in the modern world, where materialism and consumerism have overshadowed our responsibility as Khalifa. I believe that by re-engaging with the intellectual and spiritual heritage of Islamic environmental philosophy, we can address both the practical and moral dimensions of environmental degradation. In conclusion, today is a call for the Muslim Ummah, and indeed for all humanity, to return to the Tawhidic understanding of the universe. By doing so, we can rebuild a spiritual relationship with the natural world, one that fosters respect, care, and ultimately harmony between humanity, nature, and design. And please don't forget to read the books written by Yang Berbahagia Dato Zaini Ujang. He has written on air, on water, on rivers. Name it, well, I can see this. If Ibn Sina is alive today, he will also read his book. Because according to Ibn Sina, air, water, air and water especially, are the prerequisites for healthy living. The Quran teaches, do not do mischief on the earth after it has been set in order. That will be best for you if you have faith, iman. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Yang Berbahagia Dato Professor, for the word of wisdom, a truly miss in Istag. Ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed with today's special session, I would like to invite the audience to watch a video presentation showcasing the distinguished Scholar Lecture Series 1 to 6, co-organized by ISTAG and IPSAS. This collaboration has provided both institutions with the unique opportunity to alternate hosting, with one lecture taking place at ISTAG and the next at UPM, fostering a rich exchange of knowledge and ideas between these two prestigious bodies. Please enjoy the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, for the big session, may I now invite Assistant Professor Dr. Nurul Ain Nurman to read the biography of Yang Berbahagia, Dato Seri. Please give her warm welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker, Yang Berbahagia Professor Dato Seri Insinyur Dr. Zaini Ujang, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Higher Education, Malaysia. Professor Zaini is a highly respected environmental engineer, public servant, and corporate leader. He has extensive experience in areas such as planetary health, climate change, energy security, and environmental sustainability. His expertise also extends the corporate ESG, environmental, social and governance, green technology, and entrepreneurial university frameworks. Prof Zaini holds a Bachelor Chemistry Engineer from University Technology Malaysia and multiple postgraduate qualifications, including a Master Science, PhD, and Honorary Doctor Science from Newcastle University, UK, as well as an advanced, AMP from Harvard Business School. He is a chartered engineer and chartered scientist in the UK and Malaysia with numerous fellowships, including with the Institution of Chemical Engineers UK, the Academy of Sciences Malaysia, and the Institute of Water and Environmental Management UK. His illustrations career spans both public service and academia, having served in various high-level positions, including as Vice Chancellor of UTM and Secretary General of multiple ministries. He is also the author of 51 books and has published over 300 scientific papers. Professor Zaini's contributions have been internationally recognized, including receiving the Order of the Rising Sun from the Emperor of Japan and other prestigious accolades. It is truly an honor to have him with us today, and without further ado, please join me in welcoming Yang Berbahagia, Professor Dato Seri Insinyur Dr. Zaini Ujang, to deliver his presentation.
Tak boleh terus ke? Kenapa? Saya terlupa lah. Sekarang minta saya. Boleh. Tadi patut minta tadi saya. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, salam Malaysia Madani. Yang berbahagia Profesor Emeritus Datuk Dr. Osman Bakar, Rector International Islamic University Malaysia, Honorable Datuk Profesor Dr. Abdul Aziz Barud, Dean of ISTAC, Profesor Aslinda Abdullah, Director of IPSAS, Management of UIA, ladies and gentlemen, may I know the number of people below 40 years of age here? Can you raise your hand? 40 years of age, below. So, I'm speaking to the fathers and mothers of youth instead. Okay. Below 30 years of age. Okay, we have couples though. Okay, tak apa. So I'm very grateful today to talk to the youth. Whenever you want to invite me, there are two keywords that I will try my best to attend. One, to be associated with youth. Second, to be associated with any active lifestyle. Marathon, you name it, yeah? So that's activities that I'll try myself, push myself to participate. So today, because of youth, is part of the theme of this event. I try myself, despite I have a lot of other things to do. So I briefly try to introduce myself. At this age, I have another 139 days to go before my retirement. It means that I'm no longer youth, but I'm not yet emeritus, as mentioned to Professor Osman Bakar. He is my teacher. Yeah. In 1987, 37 years ago, yeah, we had a debate in newspaper about Islamic science between a newly graduated lecturer, PhD from Temple University by the name of Dr. Ibrahim Abu Bakar and me. At that time, I was an undergraduate student. So whenever I wrote articles, I will refer to him, visited him at home, asking for views, and then I keep on writing. So that was 37 years ago. Yeah, if you are at the age of 37, that was the date, I think the time when I had very long discussion with Professor Osman Bakar on Islamic science. At that time, I was 22 years of age, 22 or 23. So it's a long time ago. What I would like to do today is to relate to youth in the context of mindset change with special emphasis on mobility. Otherwise, it's difficult for you to understand. The subject of environment is very wide. So normally, a professor in environmental science or environment will confine themselves into specific areas, specialization in particular. And today I'm going to focus on mobility because this is a challenge, I think. Yeah? Something wrong. Can you proceed? One slide. Okay, next. Habis-habiskan slide ni. So this is what I'm trying to do. And I think let's challenge our youth. Why not we make change to the country? Yeah, so I purposely put forward what change is needed is green lifestyle. We know that 52% of Malaysians are obese. Yeah, it's well-known fact. It's mentioned many times. And inshallah, in this coming budget to be tabled by Prime Minister, there will be tax on obesity, the tax on sugar, tax on sedentary lifestyle. So why not we do something about it? Next. Jangan tunjuk. So this is Zaini Ujang as perceived by a cartoonist Lat. Yeah, when Lat think of Zaini Ujang, this is Zaini Ujang. Yeah, it's not a scholarly person, it's not a person with books, no. It's a person with bicycle and going around with bicycle. I'm very sad today. I'm not coming here by bicycle to talk to you about environment. If you are in many countries, they will ask, Mr. Speaker, how you get here. If you say that I'm taking my private car, half of them will leave this hall because they don't believe in you. You are not really practicing what you preach. Next. So these are some books that I've written on environment. Yes, there are some, I would say that good books, and some books are actually just to express myself during that time because of various reasons. Next, this is very important. I started with environmental engineering when I completed my PhD, my master's PhD. I think for 25 years as an academia, I concentrated a lot on issues related to environmental engineering. I'm very grateful when Merdeka Award was given to me. I was the first to receive in scholarly achievement, Unku Aziz on education. So the narration about my contribution was that I was able to integrate various environmental aspects into one piece of proposition, one piece of understanding. Because normally in academia, from big thing, we try to segregate. We try to make, what's the word? Put it into pieces, yeah? Fragmentation, you fragmentize them. The more you fragmentize, the more focused you are, the higher the value of your academic achievement. So what I did, I reversed the process. In order to understand environment, you have to reverse the fragmentation into unity of understanding. So that was narration about my contribution at the time. That was in 2009 anyway. And then I realized that environmental engineering is not the subject that can really unify the understanding on environment. I've gone deep into environmental policy. Therefore, I was Secretary General, 2 ministries in charge of environment, one Ministry of Energy, Green Technology and Water, and then Ministry of Environment and Water. So we try to understand the whole thing, put it together, and I found it is still difficult to be implemented and to make people understand it proper. And finally, this is quite recent, 6 years ago, 8 years ago, I think the key to this understanding is ecological philosophy, as mentioned by Professor Osman Bakar. The philosophical framework needs to be understood proper. So I use a common words that used by many people in the Scandinavian, ecosophy, ecological philosophy to be specific. I wrote some books, Japanese ecosophy, and the books that I'm writing at the moment with my colleagues from Sweden is Scandinavian ecosophy. I'm so sorry. Next, please. So this is common in 1990s. People think that environment is something very funny. People don't take environment very seriously. If you write environmental impact assessment, I was consultant of environmental impact assessment, people don't know what to do with the thick report that we produce because it is so good and it's so difficult to be implemented. So we take it, you use it to replace your pillows, say for example, if you have problems. So that is the perception on environment about 30 years ago, not only in Malaysia, I think, but also in many countries in the world. Next, please. Okay, I just want to ask a question, not necessarily the youth to answer this, not only from UPM, but whoever here. These are greatest engineering achievement in the 20th century. It's done by National Academy of Engineering in the United States. So number 4 is water supply and distribution. That's big to me, yeah? Then electronics, blah, blah, blah. Number 10 is air conditioning. Can you guess number 1, number 2, and number 3? Just name it. Anyone? The greatest engineering achievement by topics. Yes, please. Internet, okay. Internet. Lagi. Yeah? AI quite recent. This is 20th century, yeah? Okay. Next. Number 1 is power grid, electrification. Yeah? Number 2 is automobile, transport. Yes, you are right. Siapa kata transport tadi? Okay, tanya. Okay. And airplane is also transport. So these are 10 greatest achievements. But you must remember, automobile was created in a big way because of the situation created by horse caravan at that time. It makes cities in the US, in the European countries and the US in particular, dirty. Yeah. So in 1917, caravan was banned in many cities in the world, including New York, London, Paris, and whatnot. And as replacement, the importance of ICE, internal combustion engine, was raised. And this is the replacement. Yeah? So in 2017, people reviewed this situation. And many countries decided to review ICE because ICE created another problem, i.e. climate change. Many countries, after Paris Agreement in 2015, decided to replace internal combustion engines using fossil fuel, using petrol and diesel. Yeah? Therefore, in 2026, say for example, in many Scandinavian countries, they will replace, there is no more car to be sold on the road, yeah, using petrol or diesel in Scandinavia. By 2030, there will be no car sold in the UK using fossil fuel. So this is very big decision made. Yeah. And you must remember, these are the first 1, 2, 3, the greatest achievement that we celebrated many years ago. And it became the main issue, the main problems of what we are suffering now. So please don't celebrate too much on what you have done in life. Probably they are creating a lot of other disadvantages, disaster in the future. Next. Therefore, we have Paris Agreement. In 2015, I was involved at that time. Initially, it was announced in United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, in New York. I participated, I presented Malaysian SDG roadmap at that time in United Nations. So Paris Agreement has only 3 main components. Next, please. The first one is climate mitigation. It's to be done by rich countries. They call it Annex 1 countries. The agreement has Annex. Annex 1 is countries that must do mitigation. There are Annex 2, they call it non-Annex 1. So countries must do adaptation. So Malaysia, China, most of countries from other than OECD, they are in non-Annex 1. They must do adaptation, yeah? And climate financing is the flow of money from Annex 1 countries to non-Annex 1 countries. So that's very important. And everyone, in order to be participating in Paris Agreement, we have to publish and make known our nationally determined contribution, NDC. NDC is our target, what is to be achieved. So I was fortunate because the second NDC was published when I was Secretary General, Ministry of Environment and Energy. And what is needed in order to get the money is what we call as market mechanism. Yeah, so this is very important. It's very sophisticated. But what is also important is public participation. So today we are here in order to make sure that public understand what is Paris Agreement and what is our roles, what is our challenge. And I have told you earlier, the challenge, the biggest challenge is on mobility. Because the first 3, as I mentioned, is related to mobility. The greatest engineering achievement in 20th century. Yeah? So if we can tackle that 1, 2, 3, that, as I mentioned, we can solve 80% of greenhouse gases emission in the world. Next. So this is historical. I don't want to repeat this because it has been mentioned many times. And just I want to highlight IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. There are two committees. One of the committees now is chaired by a professor from University Kebangsaan Malaysia, Professor Joy Ferreira. Yeah? So she is the latest recipient of Merdeka Award 2024. So it is very clear, due to the emissions of greenhouse gases, or we call it CO2 equivalent at the moment. It's easier for you to understand. There's a long deliberation on that, but easier to understand. And it is anthropogenic. It is done by the effort and activities by human beings. So that's called anthropogenic. So you can see the rise of temperature very significantly seen there since Industrial Revolution. Next. So what can we do? In 2020, in Glasgow, during COVID time, we had COP26, Conference of Parties of Climate Change Treaty in Glasgow. So I was very fortunate to be there for 1 week. So countries were asked to review their NDC, their targets, nationally determined contribution. So there are scenarios, say for example, if we keep as it is now, we can reach more than 1.5 degrees Celsius increase. So the temperature in Kuala Lumpur today will be 36, 37. So people say, what is 1.5 degrees Celsius? It's increased 37.5, it's not issue. It's not like that. The daily temperature change is not similar to the average global temperature. Yeah? It's look like our body. If our temperature rise by 0.8 degrees Celsius, you will be having fever. If it is 1 degree C, you need, yeah. And if it is 2 degrees C, you are hospitalized already. Yeah, so this is the situation of our body. The same thing happening to the earth. The daily temperature change is not similar to what we are supposed to understood from this perspective. So based on the scenario of whatever NDC committed by all governments, we will not be able to achieve less than 2 degrees Celsius. Only if we have what we call net zero target by 2050, we will get less than 2 degrees C, which is about 1.8 degrees Celsius. So this is very important concept, net zero target. Therefore, Government of Malaysia mentioned by 2050, we will achieve net zero target. Net zero, I'll explain later, it's very important, is to reduce our greenhouse gases emission, largely from electricity and transportation. Yeah? Next. Okay, so there are two big baskets. One is people who must do mitigation, and they are from rich countries. Why? Because they have the technology, they have the money, they have the tax system that can pay. Therefore, there are three things that they have to do. One is on sustainable transportation, new energy, and energy efficiency. For countries like Malaysia, we have to focus on adaptation. One, to make sure that disaster can be controlled proper. We are not, let's say for example, during monsoon season, flooding is under control. What else? Infrastructure must be improved. Say for example, I give you what we have done in 2021. Say for example, in order to build new buildings now, we have to comply with what we call ARI 200 years. In the past, ARI is only 100 years. Means that average recurrence interval of flooding to happen every 100 years. So as a result, we can see that still flooded. So we have to increase to 200. It means that the structure must be higher. It must be focused on disaster management. So, okay, what are the priorities? Between mitigation and adaptation are the priorities. So if we can do what is in between, we are doing mitigation as well as adaptation. Therefore, the focus in the world now is to do the overlapping between the two. The first one is water conservation. It's very easy. What's wrong with water conservation? The more water you use, the more energy required to pump the water to your house. The more water you use, the more wastewater you created. Wastewater produce GHG during treatment. Yeah? What I have done in my work, 50% of my work is about wastewater engineering. What we do is to convert problems in the form of water into the problem of the atmosphere. That not our concern. Yeah? When you treat wastewater, you are converting organics into inorganics and gases, CO2, methane, and the rest. And these are greenhouse gases. So the job of engineer is to solve your problem and let others solve their problem. So that's very clever. So what I've done in my work, I try to curb so that the problems can be solved universally. The more water you use, the more dams to be created. Yeah? And that's the easiest one. In Malaysia, we are using 320 liter a day per capita. So you take bath 3 times a day. You take ablution, you use 10 liter. So as a result, average 324. Countries like Singapore are using 150. Countries like Japan are using 148 or 145 now. Yeah, more than half we are currently used in Malaysia. So this is something we can review. That's the easiest thing. After this lecture, people ask, what can I do to conserve environment? Use less water. During wudu, you take only 1 or 2 liters water for you to use. Ablution, and during bathing, say for example, you use 10 liters. I'm very famously to say this, and people quoted many times, if you want to take bath, take only 3 minutes. Yeah, take shower only 3 minutes, because shower 3 minutes means 10 liters. Every minute is about 3.5 liters. So I've done it probably 20 years now. It's okay, still clean. New energy system, local food, education, therefore I'm here for education purposes. Urban forests, this is much better than forests that we were replanting in the jungle, in the rural area. Urban forest is needed. It can solve a lot of our issues because 70% of the population are living in urban areas. Yeah? And then complete communities, including mobility and lifestyle. So the challenge today is how can we do it? Next. So this is simplification. There are books that I've written. This is the book, EcoShift. I think it's good for you to read this book if you have time. And the proceeds from these books will be donated to endowment, university endowment. So that's good. Environmental sustainability, carbon as the currency. So whenever we talk about environmental sustainability, we are talking about carbon. And carbon is the currency. Whatever you do, carbon is the currency. And we now change that currency into dollars. Yeah, because of the Paris Agreement, Article 6.2 and 6.4, allowing that to happen. 6.2 and 6.4 took us about 8 years to finalize. So it was finalized last year in COP, COP latest in Dubai last year, so that we can use that. So if you have positive in carbon storage and whatnot, so you can sell your excess to other countries as well. And we are talking about global. In terms of mitigation, reduce carbon emission and increase carbon sink. Carbon sinks consists of forests, wetlands, and the rest. Yeah? Wetland has 6 to 7 times more potent compared to forests. So now countries like Scandinavian or in the UK in particular, they will allow their idle land to be wetlands because it has capacity to capture and store carbon 6 times higher than forests that we understood in the past. Climate action in terms of green technology and green cover. Green technology such as driving EV, driving hydrogen cars and whatnot, yeah? And what is important is systemic solutions. So this is what I'm going to talk today. One is green lifestyle. Whenever you travel, you think what carbon footprint I'm going to contribute, how to mitigate that. Second, low carbon society. So if you go to Bangi now, Bangi will be low carbon society 2030. I'm not sure whether people in Bangi knows about it or not, but that's the intention. And Kuala Lumpur as well. Circular economy and corporate ESG. Next. Next. Okay, next. Okay. So in terms of green lifestyle, I think on top of conserving water, the big challenge for us is to reduce carbon through mobility. So I'm proposing cycling, walking, and plogging. Say, for example, this morning I walk. Ni betul punya, boleh check. 12,536 steps, 8.88 kilometers. So I walk to the nearest musalla, mosque, for subuh prayer. It's about, then come back. And then, so that's what we do normally. So the proposition is not to you to walk from Gombak to Istad every morning. But from your house to your nearest mosque that you normally perform your prayers. Schools, for you to send your children, sometimes it's only 500 meters. So that's very important. And cycling as well. Plogging is something that important, let's talk about it later. Next. So this is in Glasgow, COP26 to 2020. During that time, there were a lot of demonstrations. But the biggest demonstration was by cyclists. So they cycle around Glasgow, they block the journey of VVIPs, the President of America, they were not able to easily pass through the traffic because of the cyclists. And big everywhere, this machine fights climate change, not Tesla, not BYD, and the rest. Yeah, as easy as that. Next. It's okay. Mobility. If you drive a car, you produce 404 grams CO2 per mile. If you take buses, because you share with others, it's about 291. If you take underground, 163. If you walk, 0. If you cycle, 0. Yeah? If you be at home and having meetings at home, 0. Yeah? So this is very important. The question now, the challenge now, how can we encourage more people to walk and to cycle? Next. So this is hierarchy of mobility. This is my pronouncement. Yeah? So you have to read this proper. This is not fatwa, but it's pronouncement. I don't know what pronouncement. Walking. And if you cannot walk, run. If walking is too slow. Therefore, I run, because we want to be faster. Cycling if you cannot walk or run. Public transport if you cannot cycle. Green private vehicles if public transport is not available. private internal combustion engine vehicle, the last mobility option. If you take cars to Istaq this morning, it's the last option. You must remember that this is the last option. Yeah? I'm not sure whether it's haram or not, but this last option. Yeah? And in return, you have to plant trees accordingly to offset GHG emitted. Yeah? So this is green lifestyle that we are practicing in the world now. So every year, I will plant about 12 trees, 10 or to 12 trees, because I want to offset my travel. I have to give lectures here. It's too far from Putrajaya. I have to offset. I have to plant 1 tree to give this lecture. Yeah, because I commit, I'm not sure whether it's sin or not, but it is not in accordance to my principles to produce GHG. Yeah, because I don't have green private vehicles yet. I cannot cycle here. I cannot walk here, definitely. Next. So this is what I've done in the past. Whenever my schedule permits, I will cycle to work from Bangi. It's about 10.3 kilometers to my house. When I was in Parcel F, Putrajaya. But now it's 20 kilometers. I've never cycled to work yet. Yeah? So people say that cycling is not appropriate in hot climate countries. But if you cycle at 6:30, you're arriving your office 7:15, it looks like you are cycling in Boston. Okay? Cycling is only good for recreational purposes. It's not, this is a myth. Cycling for the poor, this is worse. Because if you go to Netherlands, they have more bicycles than people. Yeah? Cycling is dangerous, yeah, because there is no facilities provided. Cycling culture requires extensive public infra. Probably yes, but there is no one cycling on the road. So why should we spend on cycling infrastructure? Cycling is the last option for transportation at the moment. So we want to reverse this, make cycling as the second. The first one is walking, and the second one is cycling. Next. So this is the situation. Malaysia is one of the best countries in the world for cycling sports. Therefore, we win medals in Asia Games, win medals in Olympic Games. But we are not taking cycling as a transportation means. There are a lot of bicycles. If you go to my houses, your houses, probably you have a lot of bicycles. I have 6 bicycles. Yeah. Not too sure that I have more cycling activities. This cycle is for gravel. This cycle is for short tour and whatnot. Yeah. And the reality is this: we have to combine all this between necessity, options, sport, and tourism as one package of cycling culture. So that's very important. This is what countries like Scandinavians, in particular at the moment in Belgium, where you can claim from your employer 10.8 cents equivalent to euro per kilometer of travel, maximum of 40 kilometers per day. Yeah, because governments give you incentive. When you cycle, you are healthier compared to others. So less expenses on your medical health, healthcare expenses. Next. Yeah. So this is what I've said earlier. Malaysia is very good, excellent in sports, but we are not yet available to make it as a cycling society. So the ingredients are there already. We have bicycle at home. Yeah. Then just give more attention so that we can create cycling culture. Next. So this is a hadith from this book. The first hadith in this book is narrated by Bukhari and Muslim. It is about the branches of Iman. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam called al-imanu bid'un wa sab'una aw bid'un wa sittuna syu'batan fa'afdhuluha qawlu la ilaha illallah wa adnaha imatatul adza anit tariqi wal haya'ul syu'batun minal iman. It says that Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, Allah be pleased with him, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Iman has over 70 branches or over 60 branches. The uppermost of which is the declarations, none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and the least of which is the removal of harmful object from the roots, and modesty is the branch of Iman. You will not find harmful objects if you are driving cars, driving Mercedes, driving Porsche. The only thing you can find harmful object when you walk. You find a lot of them. You find holes, you find screw, you find pins, whatever. Yeah? So that's the opportunity for you. So therefore we started this collection of hadith by taking the position of Iman. This is not halal or haram. This is not virtues. This is the branches of Iman. Yeah? So in order to do that, we have to walk. And then you can find it. Next, please. So countries or cities that can be rated higher in the rank of sustainability will be a walkable city. It must, whenever I want to go from A to B, there are options. Number one is walking, cycling, and then public transport, and then private transportation. So that's the ranking. So this book is very important. Many cities, including Kuala Lumpur, are now implementing these concepts. So I hope that URA, UPM in particular, we encourage this to happen. Yeah, sometimes campuses are not walkable. Students are too tired to walk. Sometimes only 500 meters, waiting for the bus half an hour to go to 500 meters because you feel that sweating is not good. Yeah. Next, please. Okay. During the climate framework recently in Dubai, next, there is a new phrase adopted. The phrase is non-state actors. In the past, when we talk about Paris Agreement, we are talking about Annex 1 and Annex 2. They are fighting. Boom, 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 boom. So a lot of issues are within the framework of Annex 1 and Annex 2 countries. But in Dubai recently, last year in November, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, recognized the importance of non-state actors. So I would like to encourage all of you here to read this very carefully. Next. Who are these non-state actors? They are academia in particular, non-government organization, corporation, trade chambers, public figures, media, writers, students, youth, individuals. So a person like Greta Thunberg is more potent compared to a country sometimes, or a group of countries. Whatever she does is more impactful to be followed compared to declaration of interest or new statement on nationally determined contribution by countries like Malaysia or Singapore or Thailand. Yeah, next. Why? When she was 16 years of age, ada 16 tahun ni? Ada, 60 ada tak ada. She attended UNGA, UNGA, kita panggil UNGA lah, di kalangan among public civil servant, we know UNGA, United Nations General Assembly. Every year, normally for 2 weeks, it's ended last week in New York. So during that time, in 2019, the topic was climate change because America United States of America withdraw from Paris Agreement during the presidency of Trump. And this little girl from Stockholm, she took train to Plymouth or Portsmouth in the UK and took this boat. And it was around 16 days or 17 days for her to travel from Portsmouth to New York. So when she arrived in New York, it was a big celebration. Why she did that? Why taking train? Why taking boat to New York? Why? Because she wants to show that if you want to fight climate change, you must travel zero emission. Yeah? Therefore, when I came here, I feel very upset. So no one of you questioned me on what type of cars I drive this morning. And then she can speak. Why? Because she is really understood and implemented what she understood. It took her about 20 days to arrive from Stockholm to New York. Yeah? So that's very important. And she was 16 then. Next. So I want to end my presentation because I don't want to be too long on this. Whatever we do as a young or not very young citizen of this country, we have to remember what is to be delivered. As Secretary General of Ministry of Higher Education, people will ask not my ideas, not my narrative, not my implementation. People ask what you have delivered, what you have done in terms of delivery. So merely giving ideas is not sufficient. If you demonstrate, I want this, I want that, that's only ideas. If you narrate, you are very good scholars. You try to frame as what I did when I was in university. In terms, instead of fragmentation, I reverse the fragmentation to understand environment, so that you can understand environment from its totality. So in order to do that, ideas must be narrated, and that is communication. So people can understand you proper. I narrate to you the importance of climate change for the youth to fight for. The challenge, I give you one simple challenge on mobility, to reduce your carbon emissions while traveling. You can use bicycle, you can walk. You cannot do that, you take public transport. If you want to fight, you want to raise issues, improve the public transport. How to improve public transport? First, because at your stage, at your age, probably you have no capacity to buy electric car, to buy Tesla or BYD that costs you about 200,000, 300,000. Yeah, so that is to be voiced out. And then, between ideas and narrative, we have to implement. So it requires planning, it requires promotion as well. So at the end of the day, we get what we call delivery. So this delivery is what most people looking at when you are at a certain position. You are Vice Chancellor of University, you are Dean of Faculty, you are Director of the Institute, or you are head of any organization. So with that, I would like to introduce my books. This is my latest book because I don't have time to talk about this book. This is Tafsir Mawdu'i Sungai. So there are 56 verses in the Quran explaining about rivers. 56, no joke. Yeah? Out of 56, 41 is about reward in the hereafter. 41. If you are part of paradise, you have 41 verses explaining the paradise. And how many words, how many phrases, how many ayats in the Quran mentioning about bidadari, about spouses? How many? Give a guess. Ustaz mana Ustaz? Ustaz. Dr. Rumah. How many verses related to bidadari or spouses in the hereafter, in the Jannah? It's only 9. 9 about bidadaris, beautiful spouses, but 41 about rivers. Yes, the importance of rivers is very clearly indicated by the number of words, the number of sentences, the number of ayah referring to rivers in the Quran. So this is the book if you want to have it later. So with that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Yang Berbahagia Dato Sri, for the insightful lecture. Please remain on the stage, and you are invited to sit as we may proceed with the next session. Ladies and gentlemen, for your information, Syed Muhammad Naqib Al-Atas Library has honored us with an exhibition of Dato Sri's extensive writing outside of the hall. You can enjoy looking to them after the event. Ladies and gentlemen, as we may proceed to our dialogue session, I would like to invite Assistant Professor Dr. Ahmad Al-Muhammadi to be on stage to moderate the dialogue session. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Sister MC. Welcome to the Dialogue on Youth and Environmental Education, Nurturing Value-Driven Mindset. It is an honor to have Yang Berbahagia Datuk Sri Dr. Zaini Ujang here, the Secretary General of Ministry of Higher Education. So to begin the dialogue session this morning, I would like to actually take the privilege of as the moderator here to ask the question, because I've been waiting to ask this question for more than 20 years. It's very long. So the question is, I've been following your writing since 90s, I think 1996, 1996, I think Dewan Siswa, Dewan Masyarakat. Yeah, much earlier, I think, yeah. You are among the few people who has been consistently doing the same job with passion. Started with the academia, and then go to administrator, and now policy maker. And I mean, the academic administrator, as the VC of the UTM, and now the policy maker. So my question is, 2 questions. Number 1 is, how do you make it? How do you make it from being an academic to that academic administrator and the policy maker? I'm not sure what next, maybe minister, but I don't see that you're going to that direction. And the second question is, what motivates you to move forward? I mean, this is the good things for the young generation who are present here in our event today to learn. You are welcome.
Oh, okay. I think we have to surround ourselves with good people. When I was still 18, 20, your father was our source of inspiration, Almarhum Ustaz Osman Muhammadi. I met him, I don't know, 3-4 times a year. I met Professor Osman Bakar probably 10 times a year. Make an effort to meet them and to discuss things that I was trying to understand. Ask for guidance. Say, for example, I ask question like, how can I publish? So most of them will advise you according to your situation, your expertise, your interest. I'm not going to write something very philosophical, say for example, what Professor Osman has done, because I'm not trained to be a philosopher. But I can write something between philosophy, ecosophy, engineering, scientific, policy, and whatnot, to put it in one menu. So this is your niche. You have to find your niche. So for young generation, youth, I mentioned earlier, if you want to be a leader, you have to think what to deliver, not what to speak about, not to what to think about. to deliver. People of higher standing, they deliver. Sometimes I'm very interested to know why people are being recognized. Say, for example, why scholars are being recognized. Scholars are being recognized because of two things. One, because new things that they have created, they have formulated. Second, how they communicated. The communication for you after you completed, that is very important. So you can do it through your publication or through your speeches or through your network, yeah. So for non-academics, this is also important. Often, after doing so many things, sometimes we lost focus. So this is to be understood. So your second question, persistent, how can we persist? I mean, we are persistent, istiqamah. This is very important. The bar need to be raised from time to time. The people that you benchmark with should be upgraded in terms of standing. Say, for example, whenever I want to do new things, I will consult many people. And some of them will be professor at MIT, professor at Imperial College, professor at Tokyo University or Tsukuba University. Yeah, I don't want to limit myself to local scenario. So by doing that, you have a competitive advantage because they're also helping you. So this is very important. I think academia is better compared to business. Business, you are competing with everyone. In academia, we will try to accommodate and try to help out. Yeah, so the more you help, the wider your network, the wider your influence within the academic circles. So this is what we have done. Alhamdulillah.
Yes, thank you. Now I'd like to open for the floor if there are any questions. You can come up to the mic, please. Introduce yourself and address the question. Yeah, you may line up in the front. Yeah. We can collect the question, 2 or 3 questions.
Yeah.
Salam. So if you can go direct to the question, Ali. Yeah.
Families. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, next. You can have it here.
No, sekejap, sebentar saya ingat ni.
Yeah.
When I started walking to go to our musalla about 10 years ago, I was alone. And you know, my neighborhood is a guarded neighborhood. So, if I'm not mistaken, every trips to mosque, 2 or 3 cars will drop asking me, what's wrong with your car at home? What's wrong with your car? 3 orang tanya, dalam trip nak pergi surau tu. So now, it's not only me. Yeah, I think half the population in that neighborhood is walking cycling to mosque. Yeah, you don't have to ask your parents to start. Why not you start? Therefore, the challenge I gave you very easy. You can do it now. Yeah, so don't be too ambitious, asking everyone to do it. You start first.
Okay.
Hi, Dato, with respect. I think
Yeah.
Greta Thunberg is a bad example to the environmental movement, as she has been arrested many times. I don't think someone who's been a serial offender or being arrested many times is a good role model for young people. I mean, look at YB Said Sadiq now being convicted. Elon Musk has probably done more for the environment by reinventing electric cars and giving away those precious IP to Chinese EV companies to use those patents. You know that the latest EV car in China costs below 5,000 USD. There's no way BMW can compete with that, and that will be the end of all Porsches and BMWs. On the oil palm industry side, well, when you talk about sustainability, there's the social pillar, and we know that in Malaysia, some of the oil palm companies still use child labor to collect the fragments of FFB, fresh fruit bunches, when they drop from the oil palm. And, you know, that's already violating that part about sustainability. But my question is on sustainability, why are we installing solar panels on top of paddy fields in Kedah and destroying our very own agricultural sustainability, where we talk about the importance of food supply to our country, right? There's no point in doing that when we rely on imports, rice imports from other countries, where it's dependent on extreme weather events, and the price of rice may be too expensive, and we import them at such a high price to our country. So,
Yes, thank you. Your question on palm oil is very important. We are not talking about sustainability alone. When we talk about individual, yes. But when we talk about cooperation, we are talking about ESG, environment, social, and governance. The social component is very important. I'm the most fortunate person to head many ministries. One of the ministries is Ministry of Human Resources. The S component is the job of Ministry of Human Resources. Child labor, minimum salary, number of hours working, compensation, healthcare, occupational health and safety for the workers, all covered there. Therefore, we are not talking about sustainability alone. We are talking about social dimension, and child labor is to be prohibited. Therefore, companies now in Malaysia, in particular listed in Bursa Malaysia, they must comply with ESG. Started with just declaration about 4 years ago, but now they have to report from time to time what progress they have made. So there will be no child labor in Malaysia now.
That's only for public listed companies on Bursa Malaysia, but for the unpublic listed companies, then you have.
Yeah, child labor is something that we discuss very lengthy. If you are working for your parents, so it is allowable. If, say, for example, you have a shop and suddenly your parents going out for, say, for example, makan or salat, and then child can be there. Child labor is prohibited by law in Malaysia. You must remember that. Yeah. If someone doing it, that is their responsibility, and we should punish them. Salat is wajib, fardu ain. That is a principle. That is rukun principles of Islam. But we are still people not performing salat. Back to your question, why we have solar panels everywhere? The guidelines for solar at that time was not good. Yeah, so I have to admit that. When we started solar farm, a lot of abandoned land, idle land, were converted into solar farms. And now we are revising that. So it's a lot of solar projects now. We have more stringent. When I say we, means that SEDA, Sustainable Energy Development Authority, they have more clear pathway what to do with solar panel at the moment. In the past, that's first generation, I think we made a lot of mistakes.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
Can very fast question I can ask?
Dato', thank you
will be
for
leaving
your
very soon.
provoking and very fruitful discussion.
Yeah.
I'm also from Inhat. So I just nak dapat lah, Dato'. For this approach to sustainability, the earlier one, if my reading is correct, it started from ESG, right? And then it come down to SDG now, the 17 goals. So the approach to IC is from the West, if you to see it, the underlying is still profit making, all right? The motivation is to make money. Whereas the other side, on our perspective, is for the maqasid ESG, which is more fair, justice, and what do you call that, prosperity. From the in heart, we talk about halal toiban. So from your experience and also going forward, what is your advice? How we should go about? Thank you.
We have to make money, okay? Money, profit is important. Don't say that profit is not important. Otherwise, there is no cooperation. Otherwise, the university will not be operating. So I'm telling everyone, all vice chancellors, make sure that you have enough money to pay your expenses, to pay salaries and whatnot. So we have to adjust whatever needed. The key point that we have to move forward, I think, despite my reservation on the conventional ESG, environment, social, and governance, but I have to acknowledge the motivation behind it. Say, for example, if you go to countries like Sweden or Denmark, they really practice, and this is happening 25 years ago. In 1999, if I'm not mistaken, we had a conference in JB. I just came back from Ministry of Education then for 2 years assignment. And we organized big events in Johor Bahru. And my friend came, 2 from Japan and 4 from Denmark. And in front of my house, we had 2 cars, one for me and one for my wife. And my friend from Denmark asking me, Zaini, whose car is that? That's my car and this is my wife's car. Oh, you are very lucky, Zaini. If you are in Denmark, no one will listen to your environmental speeches. So they practice. So I want that level of commitment, and then we can talk about the nitty-gritty about it. So the commitment is more important rather than slogans that we want to be this better. Do it first, cycle first, walk first, and then we can talk about it. Yeah? The question is we are asking too much, and we are not practicing at all. That's my worry. There is no evidence in our life, in our campuses, that we are practicing. UPM, tapi student tunggu bus juga. Yeah. There is one small campus in Malaysia called Pago Hub of Higher Education. It's about 17 acres of land. They're asking for bus. And the distance between here and there is 500 meters. So I think this is not something that I'm going to approve. Dia kata berpeluh, nanti sweating. That's good, sweating. We have to convert smell as the masculine character and traits rather than smelly thing. Yeah? Someone not having sweat, they are not masculine enough. Mesti bau peluh jantan, barulah. Yes, please.
Thank you, Young Berbagya. I'm Dr. Ismail Abu Jarad from Beit Lahiya town in the north of Gaza. I have a question, but to ask the question, I want to share with you quickly that I have a friend. He's from Utrecht in the Netherlands. He's atheist. He doesn't believe in God. But he practices Islam in terms of environment, the way he lives, the way he saves water, etc. And I was like wondering, I have known an ustaz who has been preaching us not to waste water even if you are living, which is the hadith, along the river. Allah in Surah Al-A'raf also said, وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. Now, the problem I see is not walking the talk. It lies in not implementing what we Muslims have to implement. Where is the problem? I mean, what can be done to make Muslims generally, and Muslim leaders in particular, walk the talk, implement what should be or must be implemented, because it's there in our holy book, Al-Quran, and the Sunnah. Thank you, Dar.
Okay, in Japan, they started with small thing. They don't teach you the second level unless you do the small thing. Yeah, in Japan, when I did my research on Japanese ecosophy, I went to schools, I read their books. There was no specific book on environment in Japan at school level. It is only through practice. When they practice, the kids will ask, teacher, why we do this? Oh, we do this because blah, 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 blah. And then go to second level, do this from time to time. And they teach students through questions asked when you have difficulties in implementing it. Say, for example, when they they find rubbish on the street, they put in their pockets. Yeah? So first, the teachers will do it. And then the subsequent students will do it. And they discuss in school, in the class, why they have done it that way. Yeah? Rather than we start with, this is the narration, this is the surah, this is the siapa tak buat ini masuk neraka, and no one do it. Why? Because they cannot see on the street. People are not practicing. So we start with doing things small, and then we go from time to time. In the Sirah, you can see that whenever someone met Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, give me an advice, Rasulullah gave a simple advice. Make sure that you look after your parents. That's all. Not everything. And then he would look after the parents and then come back. Okay, do fasting every Monday and Thursday. That's all. Then you practice, come back. So what we have done, sometimes we overloaded in one subject, we put everything, and at the end of the day, we pass exam. A, everyone, and no one practicing. Because they have achieved the objective, which is to pass with A, not to practice. Yes, so delivery is very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
very
please.
Good question.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamu warahmatullah.
My name is Sulaiman Muhammad from UPM. First and foremost, I would like to appreciate the lecture you gave in order to talk, where you talked about carbon reduction. In the course of your lecture, you did say some students wait at the bus stop for 30 minutes waiting for a bus to move to go to a distance of 500 meters or less than that. As a policy maker, one of the policy makers, I would want you to promote an idea whereby bicycles will be donated to schools instead of buses, or buses as well, but bicycles should be more. Donate them to schools, put them at the bus stops. Students will not have to come and wait, move the bicycles and go to where you are going in order to curb carbon emission. Secondly, when building modern infrastructures, should try to carve a place where a pathway for bicycles, especially when building bridges. This I would like you to move in order to reduce carbon emission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Putrajaya has everything. The best cycling line in the world is in Putrajaya. I can testify that. The best facilities for cycling in Malaysia is in Putrajaya. But I will ask you, how many employees of the government buildings cycle to work, despite all facilities given. And it was built 25 years ago. So that was my challenge to my officers at Ministry of Environment and Water at the time. So I make a pronouncement, those who are staying around 3 kilometers here, you must cycle to work. Otherwise, you report to me why. So you say, oh, I have to send my children to school first, blah, 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 macam-macam lah. So I receive a set of excuses for not cycling to work or to walk to work. Yeah? Largely because of the children. They have to send to school first. Yeah? So I have to send my wife first, then come to office, so that kind of thing. But it was meant to ensure people cycle. There are two ways cycling in Putrajaya. One is next to the main roads. The other one around the lake. There is another cycling pathways. Yeah? But no one using it. So if people say that we have to provide facilities, I have big evidence, and that is Putrajaya. And still people are not cycling. Yeah. Please, yeah, sister.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am elated to meet Prof.
Could you speak louder?
I am elated to meet Prof. Because, and especially when it's Allah's will that I come to this talk. I didn't plan to come, but I joined Dr. Ismail here. Just to share, and also a question, remind me of the question. My family, we try to do environmental, care. There is a, when you talk about youth, that's what makes me so engrossed in your talk, yeah? I don't know whether Prof knows about the Yayasan Anak Warisan Alam. Okay, my children were the first batch. My daughter was 6 years old at the time, and now she's around 38, and she still does environmental, take care of them. We keep glasses, we keep and everything. So it has to start from the young. Okay, my question is, I used to be academia. I used to be a lecturer. Now I'm on my own, and I intend to do some NGO work on environmental. My question is, since Dato Sri is in the higher education ministry, I'm wondering what exactly, I want an exact peraturan of what is in line you have in store for the universities in terms of cycling per se, not on everything else, but cycling, because I am advocate of cycling. I still cycle, I'm 68 years old. I stay in a pondok, Warga Emas, and I cycle. So I'm very passionate about cycling. I have cycled the San Francisco Bay Bridge when I was 52 years old, up there. So I believe in cycling, and I'm glad that Dato Sri also believe in it. I'm so happy. So what have you got in line for the universities, especially where I was working last time, in University of Utara Malaysia? Lots of room that they can do for cycling, but it's not working too much. Yeah. How about in UTM? What are your peraturan in there, or even in all the universities? Yeah? I need to know exactly what you have in store for that.
I don't know.
You don't have it?
I don't know. Because I don't have it, I don't know. I have to check.
Okay, but I think being in the ministry, there are ways that you can implement it, inshallah. Dato Sri? Okay, that's all I have to say, because I think we need to do that. Yeah.
There must be. I don't want top-down kind of thing. Okay, top-down will be good when you are there. The moment you leave, people say goodbye to you. This is your bicycle, you can take home. Yeah, so that's what happened to me. I have a lot of this kind of experience.
But
so listen to me. Therefore, I attend this kind of events. I give challenge. Yeah? And when we were in other ministries, we give awards to those who cycle to office every day. Yeah? So that kind of enhancement rather than asking everyone to do it. Yeah. And it's not only cycling, we can walk. We have many other options. We don't went specific to one solution. Yeah, I prefer walking now instead of cycling because I don't have to worry about my bicycle out there. My bicycle is 10,000 ringgit. I keep on looking at it. Yeah, so for me, walking is more sustainable, easier for me. I can run if I want to get it faster. I'm 60 by March next year.
Thank you so much, Dato'.
Okay.
Are we good, Datuk Sri? We still can.
Oh, boleh satu soalan cepat ya, nanti saya boleh jawab.
Yeah, Datuk Sri is leaving. One last question. Yeah.
I have.
Assalamualaikum, Datuk Sri. Thank you. I'm Farhan Zamziba from Eastern Student.
Okay.
So my question is because you mentioned about your book At-Tafsir Al-Mawdu'i dalam sungai. Saya dah baca, tapi not finished yet. I just wondering and talk why you didn't use instead of river over the sea, because for example as Rahman Allah said Maraj al-Bahrain al-Taqiyah, there are two types of sea. So I just wonder, this my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
My question, because at that time we had river pollution a lot, and my co-author Professor Zulkifli Muhammad, the Sheikh is Professor Zulkifli Muhammad. So anything to do with interpretation, you ask him. I just helping him to write the book. Okay. At that time, water pollution was big and largely river pollution. And we would like to understand what is the Islamic perspective on rivers at that time. So we try to understand. We read books and journals and tafsir, whatever the words river appeared, we try to read. So, and we put it in that tafsir Mawdu'i. So that's the reason why I'm not discussing about rain, about lakes, about sea. Yeah, please, final.
Yeah, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. It's a short question. We know that what is happening, like the global warming, especially the first world is actually responsible for that. So on that circumstances, what we see that the first world is actually not reacting well to reduce these the carbon emissions, right? So how the Malaysian government and the other world, which is not responsible that much like the first world, what is the stand of Malaysians and how are you working on it? Thank you.
That is previous approach. When state is the main actor, my lecture just now is about non-state actors. So I didn't discuss about position of Malaysia against other countries. Yeah, because I think if you start with discussing about that, you are discussing about North-South disagreement. You think about imperialism. At the end of the day, nothing happened on the street. So our position is how to strengthen our people, how to make sure that we are practicing. Yeah, orang yang cakap-cakap tu je buat tak? Rather than we complain about many things. So simple things. Walk to your workplace. Use less water when you take wudu or take shower. Simple thing. You can do it. Yeah. So there are rewards for you if you understand that this is part of sustainability. Yes, sister. Last. Okay, I have to go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
We cannot hear, actually. Yeah. All right.
Hello?
Yeah,
okay.
dengar.
Thank you. According to The Guardian, militaries are responsible for 5.5% of global greenhouse. And if the global military were a country, this would place it in the fourth in terms of its emissions between India and Russia. What would be your stance and advice for the military to reduce emissions, yet keeping collective security? Thank you.
Can you repeat? I'm not able to.
What would be your stance and advice for the military to reduce emissions, yet keeping collective security? Because it has been already proved that the military industry are responsible for 5.5% of global greenhouse.
It's not really clear. Yeah? Military?
Why not we discuss a simpler question? I try to make sure that you understand and then we do it first. Of course, something that we cannot do. Stephen Covey keep on mentioning to me. Stephen Covey mentioned by his father when he gave ceramah on Maulidi Rasul in UTM in 1986. Maulidi Rasul, instead of talking about Maulidi Rasul, he mentioned, or he discussed about book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And Stephen Covey said, if you want to make change, you must work within your sphere of influence. Within your sphere of influence, and then you can make change. If you go beyond that, you can make change, but you're just talking, and probably you disagree with many people. So I have, yes, we can think about it, but I think military, whatever, not only military, the biggest is energy related, which contribute 80%. Energy related, electricity and transportation contribute 80% of climate change emissions of GHG. Yeah? So let's tackle that. And in order to do it easy for us, we can do it now, today, this afternoon. Cycle or walk to places within your reach. I'm not saying 20 kilometers, 10 kilometers, no, within your perimeter. Say, for example, you are working in this department, you want to go to that department, which is about 300 meters away, walk. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you have to buy electric car. If you have money, you buy. Yeah? If you cannot do everything, you offset by planting trees at the end of this year. So join me for planting trees, because this weekend I'm planting trees. We are planning to plant about 200, 300. If you have time, join me in Bangi on Saturday, and on Sunday we have another project in Malacca. Yeah, and that is very practical. You can do it, and from there we can learn going step, and another step, moving forward. Thank you for your participation. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi.
Thank you Yang Berbahagia Dato' Seri and Dr. Ahmad Al-Muhammadi for the excellent and engaging dialogue session. I would like to request Yang Berbahagia Dato' Seri to remain seated on stage while Dr. Ahmad Al-Muhammadi may return to your seat. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now arrived at the much-awaited moment, the book launching of the 6th Distinguished Lecture Series on Youth Well-being. I will kindly invite Professor Emeritus Dato Dr. Osman Bakar, accompanied by Dato Professor Dr. Abdul Aziz Barun and Professor Haslinda Abdullah to be on stage for the book launching ceremony. Please welcome. For your information, there are 2 books for our launching session. The first book is Pendekatan Sains Sosial dalam Pengurusan Alam Sekitar, authored by Haliza Abdul Rahman, and the second book is Persekitaran Kesihatan dan Kesejahteraan Warga Bandar, authored by Haliza Abdul Rahman, Hasmah Abdullah, and Rafi'ah Supian. To mark this significant occasion, Yang Berbahagia Dato' Seri, you may touch the screen for the book launching session. With that, we commemorate the successful launch of this remarkable book, which marked a significant contribution to the field of environmental education and urban sustainability. kindly request all the VIPs to remain on stage for the souvenir session. Souvenir to the rector. Next, IPSAS is pleased to present a special souvenir to the Yang Berbahagia Dato Seri Dr. Zaini Ujang. Next, ISTEC will present a token of appreciation to the Ministry of Higher Education Yang Berbahagia Dato Seri Dr. Zaini Ujang. Thank you to our distinguished dignitaries. You may now return to your seat. I'm so sorry. Next, ISTEM will present a token of appreciation to the Ministry of Higher Education Yang Berbahagia Dato Seri Dr. Zaini Ujang. To our distinguished dignitaries, you may now return to your seats and join the audience for a group photo. Ladies and gentlemen, Ladies and gentlemen, we will now have a group photo to capture this historic moment. I kindly invite all of you in the hall to stand closer towards the center for the photo session. Ladies and gentlemen, we now kindly invite our guests of honor and dignitaries to join the exhibition tour while the audience is requested to remain seated.